All right, now the second story also has to do with obligation to marriage and family, but most importantly, in this particular case, it also has to do with our obligation to women, and especially as men, to protect them and to care for them. So just recently, Justin Trudeau announced that he is a proud feminist. Check it out.
We were supposed to be on a steady, if difficult sometimes, march towards progress. And yet, just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president. Everywhere, women's rights and women's progress is under attack, overtly and subtly. But I want you to know that I am, and always will be, a proud feminist.
Now, I have a theory here. Justin may be saying that he's a feminist and not actually mean what he's saying, because this is a radical statement. Maybe he's just trying to pander to the women in the audience because he is a newly single dude, and maybe he's looking for some action. That's the most charitable take that I can give Justin. But if he actually means that he is a feminist, then I have to tell you, he might as well have said, I'm a proud member of Al-Qaeda, guys. Now, he would never do that, and people would be shocked by that. But it's way more common for people to say, I'm a feminist, and for us to be like, oh, okay. But there's one big problem with that. You may be offended by the fact that I compared feminists to members of a terrorist organization, but that's only because feminism has been one of the most destructive forces in human history. So let me show you first and foremost how feminism has destroyed the family. See, feminism is associated with Marxism, and largely the two are interchangeable. Even the feminist that does not claim to be a Marxist is probably just a useful idiot. But Engels, all the way back at the foundation of the Marxist movement, viewed marriage as an institution that systematically oppresses women. Sound familiar? Freud would take Engels' idea and capitalize on it and take it a little bit further and say, hey, well, it's not just marriage and family that oppresses women, it's sexual restraints that are placed upon us by society or maybe even religion. And in order for you to have great mental health, you need to go around and have sex with everything. So throw off all of those restraints. So destroy what it actually means to be a woman with integrity. And then Wilhelm Reich. Why is it always that these old German dudes want to redefine sexuality, especially when it comes to children? Because Wilhelm Reich wrote a book, and it intended to liberate youth from their sexual repression and the authoritarianism of the family. And all of that led to the sexual revolution of the 1960s, which of course we know that feminism was a major part of the sexual revolution. So obviously you can see that Marxism and feminism are married together in such a way that they are inseparable. And as a result of the work of the Marxists and feminists, the family has been utterly destroyed. So when you have feminists coming along and saying that a woman needs a man just like a fish needs a bicycle, you can expect that women will then flee their responsibility to become mothers and wives, and that they will occupy themselves with other things. And this is exactly what has happened, because we've seen that feminism has been responsible for a catastrophic divorce rate. So in the U.S., divorce rates before the feminist movement were around 2.2 per 1,000. So this is in 1960. So about 2 people divorced for every 1,000. And then after the feminist movement, there were 23 divorces for every 1,000 in the 1980s. See, this is when the feminist movement had its fullest impact. And that divorce rate has continued to skyrocket and even get to the place where the only reason it's plummeted is because now people just aren't getting married anymore. So the institution of marriage was on the chopping block from the very beginning of Marxism and in the feminist movement. And then feminism has also done its darndest to destroy womanhood. So Shulamith Firestone, who was a famous second-wave feminist, said this in The Dialectic of Sex. She called for women to free themselves from reproduction and childcare with new technologies and institutions so that biological differences would have no more significance in society. So what technologies and what advancements is she talking about there? Is she potentially talking about medical science and its ability to chop off the wangs of boys and the breasts of girls and to magically turn them into the other sex? But it wasn't just Shulamith Firestone suggesting that we need to get rid of all biological differences so that there's no difference between men and women. It's also Judith Butler. She said this: when the constructed status of gender is theorized as radically independent of sex, gender itself becomes a free-floating artifice, with the consequence that man and masculine might just as easily signify a female body as a male one. and women and feminine a male body as easily as a female one. So I hope you can see from this that the whole idea of gender being separate from sex is not something that comes from science. It is something that comes from activism, something that comes from ideologues, and all of it was an attempt to try to remove women from one of their primary responsibilities, one of the superpowers that they have, which is motherhood. Because as a result of the feminist movement, abortions have skyrocketed. Now, in 1960, before the feminist movement had its way, there were around 300 abortions a year. Now, fast forward just 10 years after the feminist movement has kicked in, and now there's 193,000 abortions every single year in America. And then just 10 years after that, in 1980, there were 1.5 million abortions. Now, after hearing all that, you may argue cause and correlation. It's just incidental that feminism was starting to rise at the same time divorce rates and abortion rates became so catastrophic. I think that's an intellectually dishonest argument, but you're welcome to argue what you want. But I would rather encourage you just to be honest with yourself and to make some logical deductions here. Feminism clearly militates against patriarchy, but patriarchy, on the other hand, has nowhere near been as destructive as feminism has been. Patriarchy leads women, it protects women, it honors women, it provides for women. See, patriarchy doesn't nudge your wife in the middle of the night and say, hey, there's a burglar coming into the house, get up and protect me. Patriarchy does the opposite. It risks your life for your wife and for your family and protects them and takes care of them. This is why militating against patriarchy is such a horrible thing. And it's such a horrible thing for a world leader to get up and acknowledge that he is part of a group that has been so destructive.
So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely want to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.